So I love that term, think tank.
Think tank.
You know what a think tank is? Like, how's a think tank go, Jim?
Yeah, they got cancel culture nowadays. You gotta watch what you say. It's getting real scary out here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I can take the conversation here, but we might as well. It's the Rethink Tank. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the Rethink Tank.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? And thanks for joining me again. I got a real special episode for you because in the interim between the last episode and now, we have sacrificed our chief, and this is an emergency press conference. We're going to have a fun episode, and I have a really special guest for this episode because quite literally, the last time my good friend Doug was on this podcast, we were doing the podcast in my basement off of a little snowball microphone, how the podcast itself has evolved, but then even more so, we literally talked about how we went to the All-Star game, the Cleveland Indians hosted the All-Star game in Cleveland in 2019 because we sacrificed our chief. We had a conversation about how I took this sign with me, and dude, I felt like a celebrity. People just kept stopping me to take pictures, and there were a couple people who tried soliciting to have me make one for them. They would buy it.
I want you to make one for me.
Well, unfortunately, my dad no longer works at the engineer firm that was able to print out
the giant
I have like one or two left. If I have an extra one, I'll give it to you because that's going to be
it to the game.
I would love to take that one to the game.
Do it.
But I guarantee they would take it away. They would go, "You're not allowed in here with that sign," or because if you do look at the ticket, you know how we talked about. So, as some background, I'm going to be completely frank with my podcast listeners because I'm always 100% transparent. Doug and I did attempt at this podcast once before, but we were sluggish, and we got 12 minutes into the podcast before I realized that both microphones were essentially on mute. All the volume was down on both of them.
No volume on it.
So we wasted 12 minutes, then we tried to go back and redo it, and it just wasn't organic, and we missed a couple things that were pivotal to the conversation that we thought we talked about, but didn't. X, Y, and Z, here we are. And the reason we're redoing it, folks, is because this is a really important conversation to me in my heart, and I also don't want to do this forever. I want to fully exhaust this point, flush it out in its entirety, be satisfied with the way we talk about it, and then just dispose of it.
Try to
and
move on.
Exactly. But the reason I give that preface is, if you remember, when we last talked, we talked about the contract of the ticket.
Yeah, like you got to pay attention, and if you get hit by a foul ball, you can't sue the stadium. That's one of the things on the ticket.
Right. So also part of your contract with the lease to join or enter the premises is you're allowed to bring a sign, but they are the sole arbiters of truth when it comes to deciding what is permitted and what isn't.
So what about, you have it there saying this wasn't worth sacrificing our chief. What if you took off the wording, put it in your pocket, and then we taped it up and we brought it in?
I love that my friend Doug Sluka said that. I love it because when I went to the All-Star game, we go to the All-Star game, my dad is 100% hell-bent on the fact that I'm going to take this sign to the game, and it's going to get stolen. He's like, they're going to take it away. You're not going to be able to enter. He kept saying that. Now, I use like clear packaging tape to essentially laminate it, but what I did have was see how my dad printed out, this wasn't worth sacrificing our chief. And it's the blueprint with the red outline, and it's like the Indians. He printed out this same page, and it said, "Go Indians." And I cut it out and taped it on top of this.
Pulled it off when
we got to our seats, and I ripped it off.
Do it. That's what we got to do, bro.
That would be worth it, but I want to have this piece of artifact till the day I die. If it were to go, I'd make a new one. So if it got wet, if it got broken, if
stolen,
some angry savage took it from me and ripped it in half, at least I would have the original.
Savage. That's not PC, bro.
It's racist. So let's get to the heart of the point. Douglas, we have been kind-hearted people that rallied behind a pastime that the whole entire city could appreciate.
Everyone came together for the tribe.
Bingo. And now we're being made out to be hateful bigots. What is your opinion of the new name change, and how do you feel about losing the Indians? And then we'll go from there.
Okay, so I do not like it. I mean, honestly, no one who grew up in Cleveland probably actually likes it. There might be people that don't care, but I'm not happy about it. But to be honest, devil's advocate here, I'm not sure there was any name that I probably would have liked because I don't want them to change the name. However, if there had to be a name, there are 2 names that I liked. One, the Tribe. You know, tribe is not a specific Native American thing. It's literally like a group of people coming together. Like that's what a tribe kind of is. And so I don't think that would have been, I think it would have been enough to appease the people, maybe, not all of them, but some of the people that were complaining. And it would have kept everyone that doesn't like the name change going, okay, you know, close enough. But that didn't happen. But if you remember a year ago when they first announced the name change, there was all these joke names flying about. One of them at the time was Spiders, which I actually didn't mind because the logo possibilities were pretty cool. But the one I loved was the Cleveland Caucasians. And people online were like ripping it apart. Like, you can't do. I'm like, why? Like, I don't find it offensive. I don't think you would have found it offensive. And the logo was Chief Wahoo, except turned into a white guy. And I loved it.
So, but what's funny is that literal created word art, dude, that's been floating around for like 8 years. I'll have it on the screen. Where it's it's a white guy, but instead of the feather, it's a dollar signal.
Dollar sign.
And that's been floating around forever.
But like as soon as they announced getting rid of Chief Wahoo, like that was a thing. And then as soon as they announced like last year that they were going to change the name or whenever that was, like that started floating around again.
Right.
And I loved it. People were like ripping on it. And I'm like, why? It's the least offensive name they could have chosen.
Well, no. It's they love that this is the Democrat way. They love to have their cake and eat it too. They get to say that it's racist, or they get to say you cannot be racist against white people. Well, then also exclaiming how words and derogate or denotations don't hurt or harm or offend you, like exclaiming that with a name, like call me the Caucasians, bitch, it doesn't offend me.
Don't care.
That is so anti their movement that they're gonna silence, like, no, you can't do Caucasians, because we also need to hold the point that words and phrases hurt people. So if you embody that it doesn't hurt you, that we can't allow that because that hurts our foundation. But then also you can't be racist against white people. So sure, call it Caucasians. It isn't offensive. I mean, dude, it's a dog chasing its tail always.
Oh, absolutely. The only other name I kind of liked, like I said, I kind of like Spiders, but who likes Spiders? But I personally was voting for, I mean, there was no vote, obviously. I wish they did a vote. But I almost thought Cleveland Commodores would have been a great name, only because of Commodore Perry, the War of 1812, the history behind that, and our minor league teams are called the Captains and the Columbus Clippers, Lake County Captains and Columbus Clippers. So Commodore, Clippers a ship, Captain is a naval thing. I'm like, it almost kind of goes together. And then we have the rubber ducks, and if you think about rubber duckies always in the water.
That's Akron.
I know. So all of our minor league teams were like water-related names.
Sure, I agree. And you've got
logo could have been like an
Monsters.
anchor, or it could have been the Commodore Rank logo. It could have been a picture of Commodore Perry, even from like the Great Lakes logo.
Dude, I think that is the most random.
It is random
I've heard yet,
but I think I would have liked it more than the Guardians because I think the logo possibilities are better for that because there's open options like there. I can think of 5 off the top of my head that would be a better logo than that ugly G with the baseball that I think it was you that was telling me they can't even use that on their jerseys, right?
Yeah, so we'll get to that point, but I want to first address you've kind of laid out a couple things here. So when it comes to replacements, the entire city, even from the most liberal people in my fraternity, they even said, well, the name that I would appreciate the most would be the Tribe. And that doesn't insinuate anything. And guess what? There is something comically true to the point of Indians is a stupid name because Indians don't exist. We get to look back at Christopher Columbus. Have you ever seen The Last
of the Mohicans, man?
So we get to look back at Christopher Columbus and laugh at the fact that this man set off for India and landed in the Americas and called them Indians. So like they're not even Indians. So even that argument, sure, I think it's comical, but I'll and baseless, but I'll allow it. Regardless, the Tribe is nothing but a collection of people that rally behind one idea, collective. Yeah. concept. So
Perfect for the Cleveland Indians because
Right.
with like 2016, we all came together for that. It didn't matter where you lived, how rich you were, how poor you were, what color you were. When I was downtown for the Indians World Series run, everyone was excited. Everyone was happy. Everyone was in a good mood.
Right. And so when it comes to the tribe, one, the angry mob who doesn't even watch baseball, they're not okay with the tribe because they think, well, one, that doesn't change the name enough. That still, kind of allows for the same concept. But two, the only reason any of these people demand change, and, Joe Rogan has brought this up many a times, but, there was Evergreen College, which is just it is a crazy school. And they've had all of I don't even want to get into the school itself, but you had all of these kids that are social justice warriors on a rampage of cancelization. They're just looking for anybody to cancel. And you had the president of the school apologizing for canceled professors, that they got their jobs ripped away, everything else. And when they go to talk about, he's like, I'm sorry. And literally appealing to their point. Like, I agree with you. We got rid of them because it's a very liberal school. And then you had this person stand up and scream at him, that's a microaggression. What you're doing with your hands is a microaggression. And he's like, oh, sorry.
Oh, my God.
And then the person turns around and laughs. Ha, 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 I got him to think, he did a microaggression. I got him to suck, and he's laughing. So all of this, there's no, the veil that they fight behind is justice, truth, helping the weak or less fortunate. But the reality of the situation is, I want control, and I'm going to keep pushing this envelope just to see if I can do it. And I think if you change it to the tribe, that isn't satisfactory because we didn't get the change we're demanding.
I think it would have. I think they should have tried it personally because I think it would have settled enough.
Oh no!
I think it would have
settled enough. That would have been it.
Yeah,
that would have been it.
like
Everybody would have been like,
yeah, they're
I
like,
stand
all right,
behind
change
it.
the name. You got rid of Chief Wahoo. You're now a tribe. A tribe is just a collection of people rallying behind
why do we need
something.
to get rid of Chief Wahoo? Why can't we just change the name to the tribe and keep Chief Wahoo?
Because Chief Wahoo was the original target of the whole thing, man.
I agree, and yet let's get to that point. Because it was targeted doesn't make that right. It doesn't make it truth.
It's just a cartoon. Like,
so what is the damning?
if we
part
would have
of
taken
this?
out the feather, was there anything damning then? Like, the feather is what people were saying. It's like, well, that's a Native American thing. Okay, so let's take out the freaking feather and keep the rest of Chief Wahoo.
But then I want the Cowboys to get rid of the Cowboys are not allowed to have a white guy with a hat. The hat signifies, what's funny? If you go back to, I can't remember what Olympics it is, so look on the screen, I'll have it there and I'll have the picture. But there was this one Olympics, I think it was in Asia or one of the Europeans, and it was the one with Hitler, I think. I think it was the one where Hitler really
Olympics?
brought the eyes
Isn't
to
it
the
like
Olympics.
1934?
Whatever it was, it's going to be on the screen. You have the
One with
Americans.
Jesse Owens?
I don't remember. I don't know. But you have the opening ceremony, and the Cleveland team is walking out in cowboy gear, white shirts, pants, a red scarf, and the cowboy hat. But then you had like Asians coming out in their Asian gear. What is wrong with that? That's cultural. I feel like we need to preserve that to embrace.
I don't think anyone's going to make them get rid of Cowboys. Like that.
But I think that's racist.
How?
Because you're making fun of white people.
That's the same thing. It's like, we don't give a crap. Plus, like, no one cares about what makes fun of us.
The point here is you can't say a feather's the problem when all it does is signify a group. If you're going to say a hat isn't a problem, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Either the thing on your head that only signifies a culture is racist, or everybody gets to wear every garb on their head. It's just, you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's one way or the other.
It's insane how this all kind of went. Like, I remember, and you probably remember, like, over the years, I don't remember this necessarily when I was younger. Maybe I wasn't even paying attention. But over the years, I remember going to Well, first of all, I specifically remember going to opening day like 5 years ago. There'd be like a group of 5 people standing at the corner yelling how the team is racist and change the name. That was, like
5
one
people.
of the few times I remember actually seeing them down there because
And
they
it's
would only
always
go
opening day only.
Yep. It was only like, or like, I think they might have even been there during playoffs. Like, they're only there for like the big stuff, you know? So, fair weather people right there, they don't even want to go out there all day, every game. They don't want to go for 82 home games because they don't seem to even care that much. If they really cared.
It's not like I mean, keep your thought. It's not like their agenda or cause that they're fighting behind is going to save a life, right? Like,
it helps.
There is a person outside of Planned Parenthood every day, whether you agree with that position or not. Those people think inside that building they are killing babies. So what are they doing? Every day there is somebody manned at that parking lot to make those doctors feel like trash for killing babies. Regardless,
But they're there every day.
They're there every day. Why aren't you there every day? Because you really know whether Chief Wahoo stays or not, no lives are being saved. It's not like it's going to get you out of
No
poverty
one's
or
getting
make
like
you Bill
hurt
Gates.
over Chief Wahoo.
That's the
Show
key.
me an injury related to Chief Wahoo.
And again, it's hilarious to me that we go, I want to fight under the narrative of we need to fight whitewashing history. We cannot allow whitewashing history. Our education system's flawed. We need to remind everybody about slavery and how George Washington owned a slave. And we need to because our education system has whitewashed history. But in the pursuit of fighting whitewashed history, we white out Louis Sacalaxis.
The greatest Native American player in baseball.
I would never say that.
one.
I would never say that. But the narrative to be said, because I don't know, but the
I don't
truth
know,
is,
but he was the first, and he was a great player for the Indians.
he was the first. I was just reading about it. There seems to be a discrepancy on whether or not he was the first Native American
See, that's
to
what
play.
I always remember. No, even announcing at
the-
Indians games.
No, the only thing I knew was that he was the first Native American to play in the National League, which the Cleveland Spiders were a part of at the time. So he was for sure the first
that was
Native
before
American.
the actual combination of the two leagues and everything. So he might.
So he
not
was
have
for
been.
sure the first one in the National League. It seems that he was the second in the overall league. But again, the jury's out on that. But how did we come up with the... Now I want to give you, liberal person who's never watched a baseball game in your life, calling Cleveland racist, hateful, an entire city of loving humans, hateful and racist. I'm talking to you, blue-haired person, the person who's never watched a baseball game that says we need to get rid of our name and our logo. I'm talking to you. The reason the Indians have their name is after a Native American baseball player named Louis Sacalaxis. The story is he played for the Cleveland Spiders. He became revered in the city. We all rallied behind him. And even though he wasn't the greatest player on the team, he became a personality type. The whole entire team rallied behind him. Everybody loved watching him. He was a great personality, and he was a great piece to our team and a historical piece to the game. So we were going through a name change. And unlike the way the franchise approached the Cleveland Indians, in the name change from the Cleveland Spiders, the city was asked what they had thought for a new team name. So they opened it up to the city, and you could write into the local newspaper on what you thought the team name should be. And we had an 8-year-old little white girl, ooh, racist, a 8-year-old little white girl come out and say, I think we should be called the Indians after Louis Sacalaxis. And she went on this whole, she submitted an essay, it was printed in the newspaper, and the entire city rallied behind what she said. It wasn't the powers that be forced it upon us. It wasn't as if this was the tradition forever. We, the city, chose the Cleveland Indians to respect and honor somebody who was a piece of our history.
Made a big mark on our team, our history, and the league.
Bingo. Huge piece. And so now, in a pursuit of social justice, where else do you see Indians? Sorry, Native Americans. You don't see movies made about them. You don't see shows made about them. No. And again, I kind of get the point of why you shouldn't use the term off the reservation, right? Like when somebody goes a little cuckoo, he's a little off the reservation. Well, the phrase is based off of Native Americans that left the reservation. That was they had a plot of area, for those of you that don't know, in the agreement of creating North America and not just eradicating all Native Americans like it was led to believe. We made an agreement with these humans, like, we're going to give you a section of land, it's yours, and we will not create laws to affect it.
We literally can't do anything on there. It's to this day. Like, they have their own laws, their own cops, their own justice
But again, dude,
system.
it was savage. It was just, it was a bloody massacre. No, folks, I'm done playing the game. The massacre was only happening from savages to other savage tribes. That was where the most massacre happened, is other tribes killing other tribes. And so this narrative of like, oh, we just came in and crucified them. It's like, no, it was a war.
Well, there was the Trail of Tears.
Sure. And again, listen, I am in no way justifying our history, but to pretend that we still end up at the same place we do without a dirty, again, everyone has a dirty history. Australia is an island of prisoners.
Yeah, it was a prison.
England is probably the most savage country.
Killed a bunch of people over a bunch of different places. They had literally an empire where, like, you know, India and all these, like, if you didn't do what they said, they ended
So
up
we need a new country, and that's no longer called England. It's like, no, yeah, that's our history, but we're doing better today. The whole key is today. Don't base us today and the present us based off of the past. You just can't. So to get back on track, when it comes to the Indians, right? Let's get to the heart of the point. Why it offends me that we're changing the name. I'm not going to wear the new gear, even if it was named the Cleveland Rethink Tanks or the Cleveland Gergats, and even if you gave me a shirt for free, I'm never wearing it and I'm never sporting it because I just simply do not support bending the knee to the internet because they deem so. Because they deem so, not because it's right.
I've got so many free Indians gears from all the different giveaways from the last, 10 years I've been going with season tickets, that until these jerseys are worn out, I do not plan on wearing any Guardians gear. In fact, I'm looking for more Chief Wahoo hats before you can't buy them anymore. Like, I looked at the stadium, they're fairly pricey, so I'm looking online, I'm going to look at Rally House, but I've got enough that if I don't wreck or beat the crap out of them, I may never have to wear Guardian stuff.
Oh, I have stuff for the rest of my life, and even if that isn't the case, I won't wear Guardians gear simply for the fact that what it symbolizes. It symbolizes a bending of the knee to the internet mob.
The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah, 100%. So now let's get to what you brought up earlier in the podcast. What did they change it to? They changed it to the Cleveland Guardians. Now, what's my problem with the Guardians? First off,
the name kind of sucks.
It definitely kind of sucks. It's this ambiguous, gray area figure where it's no sex, no race. It's just a guardian. It stands in front of a door or a passage and guards, and it can be whatever you want it to be. So yes, the guardian can wear blue hair if you want it or not. It is what it is.
It could be a man, a girl, or both.
So the foundation of my point is going to be this: low key behind a back door or behind closed doors. I'm going to tell you that I truly think this was all planned from the get. The Guardians, the bridge. It's cool, but it only started becoming a focal point of the city and on t-shirts, magnets, everything 6 years ago.
Well, Market Garden made the Guardians really big because Market Garden Brewery uses the Guardians as their logo. And then, they redid that bridge a few years ago, and that made people, they talked about how the Guardians were a part of that. A lot of people I don't think even really knew about the Guardians or that bridge until they renovated it. And then, Market Garden started using that as their logo and everything. And honestly, I think their logo on their beer is better than the Guardians logo, the baseball
to the
team.
nth degree. So again, that's the road I'm heading down. So the foundation of my point is, I think this was all planned from the beginning. It was, we want to get off of the Indians to submit to the internet mob so they can move on to their next target. And so what we're going to do is start socializing this into the people so it becomes, here's what we want.
But that was before the All-Star game that they redid that bridge and everything.
I literally said 6-7 years ago. So the All-Star game was 2 years ago.
Yeah, so they did the bridge.
I'm talking about 6-7 years ago.
We were only thinking about changing
Doug.
the name after the All-Star game. That's what started the whole
That's
changing
when
of the name.
narrative of this is happening.
Oh, you think they got pressure for like
My
years
guy,
ago about it?
This has been on...
it wasn't a thing until
Yes,
2016.
no, you're wrong.
Really.
It's been in the crosshairs for a long time.
But never like to what it was.
Doug,
Gerget.
when it comes to the internet mob, the angry trolls of the internet, there are plenty of actors and celebrities, athletes that have been targeted for cancellation. And they either say, I'm sorry, and get their head lopped off, or they ignore it and they push up against it and fight it. So while you may disagree, even though ironically you just said that we had for the last 20 years somebody coming for at least one game.
I know,
Doug, let me finish the point. The point is, this has been a fight for a long time. It's been but the franchise has always stood steadfast against it. It's always been there, but they've always had to fight the current.
Yeah.
So knowing we're fighting the current, and at some point we're going to have to give into the current. And little did they know, giving into the current was when George Floyd's murdered. They knew there was a carrying capacity and that a George Floyd murder was bound to happen, and BLM was going to be on every pitching mound, and nobody was going to be pleased until the red face was off of the baseball caps.
Damn.
They knew this was coming. So when you're standing up against the current, you know at some point you're giving into the current. I think they go, we need to start making people used to and comfortable with the next icon of the city.
I can see that.
And dude, like a light switch, you have magnets, t-shirts. I mean, dude, how many times have you seen that Guardian statue with like Baker doing the Heisman on it? Those
Cleveland specific brands, like Where We're From or whatever, they've been making some shirts like that too for years.
Right, and again, it feels like a light switch. I know with 10-cent beer night, that was just a bridge. It was a cool bridge, but it was just a bridge. And then at some point over my dad's life, building tradition around Indians and creating me and us living... Somewhere in my life, a switch happened. It wasn't we always revered this statue as a pinnacle of Cleveland. It just happened.
Did you even know about it until like they were redoing, or till like, you know, all this stuff started coming out, or till they redid the bridge? Like I specifically remember when they were redoing.
Why do you redo that bridge? Unless you're like, this is going to be the focal point of the city.
Apart too.
Well, that too. Yeah,
but they made it a point to put on the news that they're keeping the Guardians, that the Guardians are remaining.
Lights. I mean, think about the lights of that bridge. You're right.
The lights underneath that they added that light up.
I mean, it is a focal point of the city. And now the
old one was pretty bad though.
right. But again, the statues are still there.
Yeah,
it's still the old bridge is gone, but a whole new foundation and bridge was built around these two statues. And so, like I said, behind closed doors, the conspiracy theorist in me goes, like again, people are like, Tom Hanks spoke about the trailer for changing to the Guardians, because that's how they did the release of here's the new name.
And the Black Keys or whatever were played too.
Sure, but they brought in Tom Hanks to do some voiceover like, we're the city and gaga gaga. I'm telling you, the only reason you had Tom Hanks in there, it wasn't because, like the article said, he's always been an Indians fan. If you believe that, you are a flipping clown. The truth of the matter is, he's owned by the Illuminati. This whole thing is a psyop.
Star power.
And they literally pull, listen, man, we own you. We're pulling the strings. Get out here. I've always been an Indians fan. Yeah, my butt.
When was the last time Tom Hanks came to an Indians game? Was it when he was working here?
He can't afford it. He can't afford it. We're always packed. Both of those entirely false statements.
Here we are, kids. The Grand Canyon.
It's so old and boring. I want a new one. Now!
Hello, I'm Tom Hanks. The U.S. government has lost its credibility, so it's borrowing some of mine.
Tousled my hair, Mr. Hanks.
Sure thing, son. Now, I'm pleased to tell you all about the new Grand Canyon. Coming this weekend. It's east of Shelbyville and south of Capital City.
That's where Springfield is.
It's nowhere near where anything is or ever was. This is Tom Hanks saying if you're going to pick a government to trust, why not this one?
But to the point, I truly think this all was planned. You alluded to the fact, and it's true. We all know
they knew it was coming.
We had an All-Star game. First off, we were not supposed to host the All-Star game in 2019. It happened abruptly, and usually these are planned like 4 or 5 years out.
They were saying we were, but then they pulled us out of it because we wouldn't give up Chief Wahoo or something. And then we all of a sudden got it back, and I remember Dolan going, "This has nothing to do with Chief Wahoo."
I remember we never had it. I remember it was another team that had it. Either way,
I thought we had it.
I remember we never had it, and we magically had the All-Star Game 2 years before the All-Star Games hosted. That may have been the case that we were supposed to have it and didn't, and da-da. My understanding always was there was another team supposed to host the All-Star Game in 2019. Ironically, they squeezed us in right before the biggest New World Order play that is... And they come out.
God, how amazing was that, though?
Don't say the word again. I'm going to beep it out. You're not allowed to say this word because it'll ban me from YouTube, or they flag it. It's the little disease that came from a lab or a bat, whatever it was. But the thing, I think it was all
beautiful.
staged.
We got that before
and so,
that.
Ironically, their big social justice move in Cleveland happens right before baseball's or no All-Star games. I guarantee they looked at him and was like, "Listen, we're about to shut the world off. We are going to give you this big payday beforehand if you change the name." And they were like, "We get the All-Star Game?" Because don't forget, we had the All-Star Game in 1993. That's where I think you're wrong.
Was it 93 or 94?
93. Or maybe it was 94.
It was one of those. It was 90s.
Regardless, you're not going to host the All-Star Game that soon again. We weren't supposed to. So my understanding has always been we got the All-Star Game because they looked at them and said, if you get rid of Chief Wahoo, we
all know that was part of it. Absolutely.
So
now you're right. I don't necessarily know if we had it lined up or not. It could have just, but we all know they said we'll give it to you if you get rid of Chief Wahoo, and then low key change your name soon.
Bingo.
So they tested the waters by getting rid of Chief Wahoo. People were not happy. This Block C is just ugly and boring as hell.
Let's get to that point. Okay, because that was literally going to be my next comment. Doug keeps dipping his toe in this, and we got to hit it steadfast. The fact that the name you change it to. So let's get to the point. If you chose the Tribe, everybody is immensely satisfied. That is quite literally the perfect name.
Perfect
to
name.
change it to. But we don't need to be perfect. We don't need to give you exactly what we want. What we want is for you to sit back and go, not that I love it, but that it's okay. It's good. It's okay. I don't hate it. If you're sitting back going, I don't hate it, that's the goal. So we're not giving you the Tribe because you're going to love it, and that doesn't please the blue-haired girl. But if we give you something that goes, I don't hate it, that's the goal. So what did they go with? They picked something that they created as a city icon, the Guardians, the statue.
Yep.
They call it the Guardians, so it's sexually and racially and everything omniscient or
you really
ambiguous.
can't have anything bad to say about a Guardian.
Right, because what is
It's
a Guardian?
statue.
Something that stands in front of a door or passage. Then you have the name itself is quite literally the majority of the same name. Yep. And there's jokes going around because the Dolans are so cheap that they're gonna save money on preserving, and so the name's pretty much the same, and then the fact that the fonts are still the fonts of the savage, of the Native American, and the colors are the exact same.
It's all exactly the same.
What that tells me is you want to do just enough to appease the internet mob so they move on to their next target, but also to preserve the heart of what you've created as a franchise. But I want to talk about what Doug said about these logos. You have 4 different presentations of the name.
They all look like someone made them in Photoshop their first time in Photoshop, too.
Yes. It's
do not look good.
They're cheap looking and tacky. There's no better word to describe it but tacky. And
perfect name.
When you have 4 different scripts of it, you have the logo itself, this one with the baseball and the G's, and I don't like it.
I don't get it. Why are there wings on it, too? Like
the wings on the side of the head of the statue.
It looks like Dayton Flyers. Like, it's just so bad.
And as Doug and I had talked about, it's hilarious that you can't even use that logo. The MLB has a rule that you cannot have a logo on the jersey that displays a baseball. So now you can't display it on the jerseys, and the block C or the cursive C is what's for the hat. So now you've created a logo that you can't even put on the uniform. And then you have 4 different ways of presenting it, script and logo, all 4 completely different font. So there's literally no continuity. There's not even continuity with it.
Yeah, I honestly want to believe, and I heard this on the radio as a theory, that like somewhere someone was probably going to leak the name early. Like I find it hard to believe they wanted to announce the name in the middle of the season too, because like I don't know personally if that's the best time to announce this. Like are people not going to want to show up anymore? Are people going to come angry? Are people going to just, I found it hard to believe if they were going to announce it during the season. Now, maybe they did want to, but just the way the logos looked, and it just felt rushed. Like, it just looked like they put it together as quick as possible to get it out there.
Maybe you're right. Maybe the name was going to be leaked, and they wanted to own the presentation because they knew how sensitive it was going to be.
Like that video was their way of owning that release. Like, okay, by the time the video was released, you might have heard that they were going to announce the name, or you might have already heard what the name was. But by them getting ahead of it that same day, they got their video out there with like Tom Hanks.
Bingo. And I think what even furthers your point, like what makes that even more real, is we were quite literally supposed to have Chief Wahoo and the name the Indians for 1 more year. We were supposed to go for 1 more season, and then they were going to make it. But because it happened so abruptly, like, here's Tom Hanks, here's the Illuminati leader, and then here's a beautiful video, and we are the Guardians, and we're starting next year. It's like, wait, what? Like, and like you said, it happened so fast. You look at this Guardians logo with the baseball and the G's, and it's like, this looks so tacky.
And if it can't be used,
so rushed.
Whoever came up with that logo is better be fired, because how do you not know what you can and can't use for a logo in the MLB? Like, if that's truly true that you can't use a baseball as a logo, who did they let come up with this, and who thought it was a good idea to release that to the public then? Because now that's the logo we're imagining with the Guardians, and we can't even use it?
Well, you know what? I've had a few of these conversations, right? Like everybody, a lot of people in my inner circle,
everyone are talking
knows
about
that I'm a big Indians fan, and especially at work and stuff, so they come up to me like, hey, what do you think of the Guardians? Because I would wear my Chief Wahoo tie just to, show you, haha, I have a Chief Wahoo tie. Chief. I hope it upsets you. I would always talk about Indians baseball because unlike the blue-haired girl, like I quite literally actually watch it.
Oh, yeah.
And what keeps coming up in these conversations is, so what do you think of the Guardians? And it's great, right? Like, sure, it's okay. The fact of the matter is, you look at this logo, and as you had already addressed, it looks like it was a child drew it. Like, it looks tacky. And what I keep saying in these conversations as they come up is, honestly, I think you're going to have... They needed to rush it. They needed to get this out. So, like, here's a logo.
Something.
And especially if everybody hates it, come next April...
They could have a whole different logo.
I guarantee they'll have a whole new logo.
Well, now that they can't apparently use the logo on their jersey, I would highly assume they're going to have a new logo now.
I agree. I think they will, and that's my position is it's crappy. They know it's crappy, and they're like, all right, we're just throwing it out there so we have something, and then down the line we could fix it, edit it, and bring it to its where it should be. I just realized this. Okay, perfect. I'm like, is my phone on mute? Listen, I had my buddy Rob Mack on the podcast, and him and another buddy who just wouldn't stop saying aggressively provocative stuff. No, whatever. And he kept saying provocative stuff, so I'm like, I can't post this. And Rob was on his phone the entire time. So I have like a strong rule against my phone, but I'm sitting here thinking like, I don't think I put it on mute.
I made sure to put mine on silent so it wouldn't vibrate on the metal table.
I appreciate you.
That would probably be pretty loud.
You know what's even louder? Over there, you've got these women doing like their bounce workouts. Shoes with a loud music for their workouts. And now we've got super sexy special microphones. So even if it is loud, you don't even have to worry about it. But okay, Doug, I could be satisfied in leaving this conversation knowing that we fully exhausted it, in that in my heart of hearts, this whole thing is just a social play. It's not even
two
real.
more things on this.
Yeah. Oh, no, we're not done.
Okay.
I'm just
I
wrapping
got
up
2
my
points I
please,
wanted to bring up.
don't lose them, because final thoughts for me is I think this is all a social play. It's all an experiment. See how much they could get away with. See how much they could turn us against each other. Because if logically this is a problem, then logically Cowboys, Celtics, and Patriots is a problem.
Fighting Irish.
I was about to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, Pirates, man, like that is racist. and so I just think if you want to be logically consistent,
Atlanta Braves are next up, man. Calling it.
I think the Browns are right behind them.
How are they? I don't know. We've talked about.
Because
I don't know.
People
how
are
the Browns-
uneducated. It's named after a white guy, but it incites the thought of a color that may
All right,
be
the
racist.
day the Browns have to change their name, I'm leaving. I'm
Wait,
done.
but Doug, we got to recognize how this game works. The angry internet mob is never satisfied. The second you give into one thing, then they move on to the next.
But I think there's more targets. I think the Browns, all right, maybe they'd be a
You're
target.
right, there's more
but they've
targets.
got to be at the, like, Atlanta Braves, the Cowboys, the Redskins still haven't really decided a new name yet, so they're still on the mainstream there, you know.
But like Evergreen College, dude, these people aren't doing it because they're saving babies from being murdered. They're doing it just to see how far they can take it.
Oh, I know.
How much action and how much can I curb people's literal actions? And that's just how we're going to keep moving the goalpost until we get it. So me and you laugh at come after the Browns, but that'll happen.
I don't
and
wanna
what do
think
we
it,
do
though.
when we're there that day where we're like, damn it, they actually got to the
Okay,
end. They
so
got to the Browns.
You know about when they tore down the Browns' old stadium, people were tearing their seats, people were taking, like, they were just taking shit out of the stadium.
Right.
All right, if the Browns change their name, I'm taking one of those orange seats out with me then. I'll bring in something, and I'll bring that seat home with me, because guess what?
You're never going to a football
I'm not
game
going again, and I assume they'll have to change our colors. If we can't be the Browns, we obviously can't have brown then in our color scheme, and orange and
So
white.
they'll be orange and white.
But that's an ugly color scheme. Like, just orange and white.
Wait. I'm just pushing back on your bias.
Just orange and white.
I'm pushing back on your bias.
Just orange and white.
You're wrong in that it isn't, because had it been that... Do you know how every person in the world besides Cleveland thinks orange and brown is an ugly combo? Like...
But orange and white is
your
so
bias.
boring. I wouldn't
Orange
want.
and
I
brown-
no. I wouldn't want. Okay, it's not a bad color. I just,
Dude,
if we're
orange
gonna
and white
redo it,
is so many sports
I know,
franchises.
but they're like two light
Clemson.
colors. I don't like that. I'd rather be like blue and white, or red and like a darker color with a lighter white. You know, like that's why I like the brown, orange, and white, because it's a dark color with a medium color and a light color. I think they all mix well. Yeah, it might be an ugly color combination to some people, but
No, not some. Everybody but us. Like,
That's
wake
fair.
up to that fact. It's everybody but us.
All right, my thing is, if we're gonna change the name, I would rather just us change everything. Then, I wouldn't even want
Which
that
is where
memory.
I'm at with the Indians. Like, don't give me everything but my name and my logo. And so, this is the thought I want to wrap up on. And the main thought with Chief Wahoo is, you are whiting out some of the most important and influential people and events in our history, which is supposed to be your goal to avoid. Aside from that, personally, I think saying people who have rallied behind a franchise and united behind it, regardless of race, gender, religion, or creed, and can all enjoy this pastime together, regardless of these immutable characteristics and mitigating factors, to damn them as evil and hateful people is more dangerous than a name or a logo could ever be. That's the foundation of my point. So give us your wrapping thoughts.
So I just had like two more points about this thing is like, you know, I went to an Indians game a couple weeks ago. The pro shop was more packed than I had ever seen it. I mean, the line just to purchase stuff was wrapping through the entire pro shop. And so obviously there is a mad rush to get Indians gear. So like, you know, they're not going to probably sell all their Indians gear. So, like, they're going to end up wasting so much money on this gear that they probably won't be legally able to sell in the team shop afterwards. Like, I bet there's some sort of rule that, hey, that's not your team name. Or, like, I don't know. MLB has so many rules, I wouldn't be surprised if they just have to donate it all.
Do you think they'd get in trouble if they sold Spiders gear at the gift shop? I don't think so.
No.
So I
but
think
Indians
they could,
is such
but they
an
won't.
offensive name.
But again,
they could because it's historical and it's part of the history. Technically, I think you're right. Good point. They probably could, just like they could sell Spiders.
I think they won't because they need to force your hand. If we give you
that's
the option of liking the Indians, you're going to like the Indians. So we're going to force your hand in embracing the Guardians.
That's the other part. Like,
it's
all
the
their
G
free
spot.
giveaways, they're going to give you I bet they might even have more giveaways next year, more jersey giveaways,
so
hat giveaways,
because
they're
want
going
you to wear it.
They want to push that guard, and that's why even if I get like this is
Bingo.
a Jim Thome jersey,
Take it.
Hall of Fame, love it, absolutely love this jersey. Even if they gave me a Guardians Thome jersey, which would be so weird because he didn't play, but even if they did, one of my favorite players growing up, I wouldn't wear it.
Or even it comes back to my point. If you gave me a Guardians jersey with Gurgat on the back, I won't even accept it. But even if I did, it's never leaving the fire pit. I mean, the drawer.
The
like,
fire pit.
It's never, ever touching my person because simply, even though it's something I love, it says the Gurgat, it says Rethink Tank on it. I would never wear it simply because it is promoting this mob that is fighting free thought, fighting free speech, fighting people's ability to have individuality. They go, we are anti-fascists. We are fighting fascism, but we're going to tell you what you need to wear, what you need to call yourself, what you need to think, but we're anti-fascist. So please, finish your thoughts. I agree with that. I agree. That was a great point.
Yeah, that was like one of them. And then this kind of goes along with the uniform jersey thing is, the MLB does these things where once a year you'll wear like a throwback jersey, and like Yankees will wear like the old pinstripe jerseys that they have, like that they actually even still wear, but you know what I mean. But like, the Indians, when they did it, they were wearing the like white cream jerseys that said Indians in the old, like not script like this is, but like the old individual letters, Yep. And so now it's like, well, let's say we're in one of those games where we get to wear a throwback jersey. Like, now we're only going to be able to wear the old school ones that just say Cleveland. Like, that's all we'll be able to wear. And that's so boring. Like, I think, I don't know. Like, I hate seeing them wear Cleveland jerseys. Like, that's so boring. That's so lame. We already know where we're from. We already got the freaking, we've already got the C.
Sitting in the stadium. I know where I'm at.
We already got the C on our hat, all right? Like, come on. We've already given you enough with the C. We should at least be, so I think that sucks. I always liked, especially as a kid, seeing like those older style jerseys they would wear. I loved it.
Right.
And so it's just like, that's going to suck that, like, really, what do we wear? Are we even going to be able, like, to wear old stuff? Because that's technically going to be part of the Indians' history.
Dude, can we agree that the entire time we've been alive embracing this franchise, they've never acknowledged the Spiders. The Spiders did not exist to me, didn't even know the name until they told me we were losing the Indians. Then I started learning about the team that preceded us.
The Spiders were so long ago and such like not necessarily an impactful team that I feel like they were more than happy to forget about them and move on with the Indians when they became the Indians,
So I think the same thing's going to happen with this next team. Is you don't even exist.
So then that sucks. We won't have any throwback jerseys. We'll be wearing ugly Guardians jerseys then while the other team gets to wear like a throwback.
Get off your George Washington high horse. Are we supposed to throw back to racism?
Hell yeah, because the throwbacks jerseys are usually the best, man.
Dude, just imagine if you let us be the Cleveland Caucasians and we could throw it back to the Indians.
Dude, I'm still all for the Cleveland Caucasians.
That's what's hilarious. And dude, I want to end this whole concept on one funny point that this person accidentally raised this point on Joe Rogan's. And I say that because I don't think they truly intended it to be the point that I took it as. And and the overarching point was, and this wasn't their overarching point, but to me, the overarching point is, if I called you honky or cracker, you laugh.
Oh, yeah, that's hilarious.
And that's your privilege because you're a privileged son of a bitch. But at the end of the day...
because, like, I don't find it insulting.
Well, but
like, I know it's supposed to be, and so maybe I should be upset, but, like, I personally don't find that offensive. I mean, hell, I was a chunky kid. People used to call me a fat ass. It didn't bother me then because you know what? I'm like, yeah, you're right. I am fat. You know? You gotta be realistic with yourself. You know what you are.
But then you've got people who are so fat their heart's about to pop, and they're looking at you saying, I'm not fat. I'm healthy. That's the delusion, is my shirt is blue. It's not mean, it's not racist, it's not hateful, it's just blue. And calling the kettle black is now a problem because there are truthfully people living in a delusion. I want to embody of the 70 plus genders and pronouns that are being supported by Canadian legislation. Of them are pixie, fairy, and fox. So if I'm living in a world
please,
where
I can't remember this shit.
So if I'm sitting in a
I can
world
remember
saying,
your name sometimes.
if I'm living in a world saying I'm a pixie, well then I certainly
think of a person flying around with wings throwing pixie dust.
Exactly.
Like that's a pixie. I find that offensive because I don't like you taking the term pixie from a beautiful flying pixie.
Or a fox. How dare you?
I love foxes. Oh, they're so cute, man.
You
Little
don't
foxes.
move. You're fat. You're covered in pimples. You have your arms are flabby because you've never done an athletic piece of activity in your life, and yet we're gonna say that you embody a fox.
Is Tinkerbell considered a pixie?
Yeah.
So then
Fairy.
I'm
I
insulted
don't know.
because Tinkerbell is a beautiful flying woman who helps Peter Pan and those kids against the mean Captain Hook.
And
I
you
don't like
tucking
that
your
name.
wee-wee does not make you
I don't
a
like that
pixie.
name being co-opted when it was used to describe a beautiful flying woman who helped kids in need.
I agree. At that point, you need to come up with something different for yourself. You are something else. You need to come up with that.
I mean, it's the same logic they're using to describe, their hatred for some things.
Right. So I'm going to get to the heart of the point of it's hilarious. It is quite literally comical to a white person to call them honky or cracker. And it's because, and what's funny is before this social justice movement, I was obviously thinking more than most people in my age and everything else. At a very young age, I looked at my dad and I go, it's sad that like something like the N-word or even other slanderous words towards other races or even black people, you have these words that truly, truly hurt and offend people. And it blew my mind. Why does it offend them, but these words don't offend us? And the power...
But then they use that word...
Well, hold on. Don't even get to that. But the power and the poison behind these terms, if you say calling us an Indian has poison behind it, the only reason that has poison behind it, truthfully, in the real world, in this realm where oxygen and nitrogen keep up the air and we breathe it in and create CO2 and the sun rises in the east and sets in the west and this whole thing that we live in and breathe in every day, the only way that has actual poison in the reality we live in is when you give it poison. When you cry at night, when you hurt, when you want to cut your wrist, whatever it is.
That's true.
It only has weight in this realm because you gave it weight. And so I always laughed at a young age that like honky and cracker does...
Because you can't be racist to white people.
No, it's because we don't give it weight. It doesn't hurt me. You call me honky, it hurts me. You call me fat, I either let it hurt me or I go, you're right, and I'm trying to work on it.
Ass.
Or I'm not. You're right, I'm fat. Dude, you know what my thing that cracks people up at work all the time before I started losing all my weight? I would say all the time. They're like, I'd make a comment about my weight. And then I go, yeah, and I enjoyed every bite of it. Yeah, I'm fat. But I enjoyed every bite.
The food we ate to get there was so worth it.
The trail of tears to getting there.
The years of Mally's chocolate.
Bingo. And so that's where I'm at is like I don't give it weight so it doesn't hurt me. And
yeah, while other people
let me
were
give you
working out
another
and
one.
starving themselves, we were enjoying every bite of our meals.
Let me give you another point. There's this TikTok. And the video is of a dad. He's walking out of the house. He's walking through the house with his golf bag, and the mom's filming him. She goes, "Oh, you're going to play golf?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "You sure?" And he turns the bend, and there's his daughter, who, in full uniform, just got back from serving our country, and he breaks down. I mean, you see a grown, hard-ass man crying, and he embraces his daughter. It's this terribly beautiful video. And my comment on the video was, this is quite literally it verbatim. It is sad that how removed we have gotten from the sacrifice these families make for us to get triggered over pronouns. Now, what's funny about that comment is I've had hundreds, up to like 250, and it's still coming. Every day I'm still getting notifications. I have hundreds of comments saying, you pig, all of the, I mean, the meanest shit you, and again, these are the heartwarming, embrace everybody, embrace every perspective, everybody, love everybody's truth. Those people are saying the most hateful, disgusting things I've ever seen on the internet. And I'm being bombarded by them by the hundreds. And like I said, about like 200-300 comments just calling me trash. In light of that, I also have 17,000 likes, outweighing those comments, the silent majority going, thank you. I agree.
It's always the few that are the loudest.
Right,
like the people who actually want to make their point are the ones always commenting. Whereas like same thing, there were the 5 people complaining at every opening day, but like they were the loudest.
Bingo.
Whereas the 5% was the loudest, but the 95% were like, who gives a crap? Like, let's just go to the game. Let's have fun. Let's live
and
life.
enjoy whatever person sitting next to me during the game. We're going to share laughs and peanuts. Black, white, female, orange.
Meeting some of the random people at the games are some of the most fun. Like at some of the playoffs games, like the people around me, we were just getting into random stuff. Don't even know their names. Didn't know who they were. But we were sitting next to each other at a tribe game, and we were all from Cleveland.
So if you blindly took my comment, you'd go, holy cow, man. All of these comments, there was one comment that made my day. And he goes, I'm not even from America. And I just got to say, it seems like California is just a state of roaming insane asylumees. And I died.
Oh my
I loved
God.
it. That was the one comment in favor of me. But here's what's funny.
He doesn't
If
even
you
from
were to
America.
take that idea, the comment, the idea, and evaluate it based on voices, you'd go 99% of the people say you're trash.
Yeah.
But the silent people who didn't want to throw their neck on the line, because that's the key. The way they're curbing
I never really comment on shit. I'll normally like it if I like it.
But that's silent, that does nothing, that doesn't stop the blue-haired girl from taking your team. And the only reason this loud minority, the squeaky wheel that gets the oil, the only reason it gets the oil and the only reason it's squeaky is because the louder people are just silent, standing on the sidelines, watching it happen, agreeing.
We're not as crazy as some of these people. Like, it
But
doesn't get us
you
as
need to care.
enraged.
You need to start caring, or
Well, yeah, now I
we're
need
all
to
gonna
care
have
because
blue
we're
hair.
losing the Indians. Like, that pissed me off. All the other stuff that we see happening in the news, I'm like, okay, whatever, doesn't personally affect me, I guess. But then this got me outraged because it's us that are losing out.
So the cool, profound point that was raised by this guest on Joe Rogan, who, again, did not intend for this to be his point, but to me, that's the point I took, and I think it's profound. Honky and cracker does not offend us.
No.
You have no verbal tool that actually manipulates the actions of white people and oppresses them. There's no way for me to oppress you the way I claim the N-word oppresses me or Indians oppresses me. So you know what they did? They created a new word. Racist. That's the new cracker. There's no black person called racist. There's no Mexican called racist.
Oh
the new cracker that damns you, takes away, and quite literally oppresses you. Your ability to feed your family, your ability to hold down a job, your ability to exist in this world is quite literally oppressed by the new cracker. Racist.
I mean, I got called racist. Here's a side note on this. I agree with that 100%, but you know what? To go along with your point of what we were just talking about, when I went to Nashville for my friend's bachelor party, we stopped at a gas station. I had to pee, and believe it or not, there was a line for the men's room. So I said, fuck it, and I went in the women's room and peed. Came out, there's some black woman standing there, and she starts going off on me. You son of a bitch, you racist, I was she like literally, I'm like, I didn't know anyone was out here, so how, and I literally just...
Wait, she made it racist? Like you did it just to purposely make her
apparently
hold
we
her
were not
pee.
in a nice area of Nashville, so like apparently I was racist because I didn't know that like
Stay in your zone.
yeah, I know, right? And so I'm just like, I literally looked at her, I'm like, I'm good. I peed. That's all I need to do. And I walked out. Like,
Dude.
she was so mad. She flipped out. And then, like I said, she threw racist out there. I'm like, all right, I can understand you being mad, but to call me a racist for using the women's room?
The way to beat racism is exposure. The more you expose yourself and live life by meeting new people with an open heart, the way you beat ignorance is with education, with exposure. The way you educate yourself is by meeting new people, meeting more people with an open heart. So the more Asians, blacks, white, honky racists, the more you expose yourself and to meet them, you realize like, oh.
Yeah.
So I think the way to flush this out is by just exposure, meet new people, allow teams to embrace the first Native American to ever play in the National League to preserve a history and acknowledge why this is important.
Like, I don't understand why if it were Native Americans, which I think it was more like white people trying to be social justice warriors than necessarily a bunch of Native Americans, but like, if they knew the history and why we made the team name the Indians was to honor one of them who made it into the league and made an imprint on our team, and literally a 6-year-old girl wrote it in and the whole city got behind it. Does that not show that we literally loved that guy, and that the fact that he was a Native American meant nothing other than he was a great damn Cleveland baseball player and that we wanted to honor his accomplishments?
Bingo. So let's take this point. I think this is a really funny point. The way you beat ignorance is knowledge, right? Like, it's just, they're the opposites of each other. Ignorance is nothing but a lack of knowledge. So when we look at you and say, you're racist, you hate black people because you're ignorant, we're saying you're racist, you hate black people because you lack knowledge of black people, right?
I guess so.
You hate the name the Cleveland Indians because quite literally, you're ignorant to why the name is what it is. And if you sat back and educated yourself and you weren't so ignorant, you'd see the virtues and beauties in the team name and logo, the Cleveland Indians.
So do you feel disappointed at all that like Dolan or people didn't try to like make this point more? Like, I don't think the Indians met with the people that were the ones protesting. I think they just went, we're going to change the name. Did people ever even try to talk to them and go, do you know why? Like, just straight up even ask, like, do you know why we're the Indians?
Or do you remember? Because you did at some point, but then ignorance, like a mold, evolved, and now you forgot.
Yeah, the people,
let me remind you. So I want to take Doug's point. You wore a Miami shirt in here. Me and Doug both went to Miami University of Ohio. We have to say that because you people are too stupid to realize that University of Miami is down in Florida, and we're talking about Miami
University was a school before Florida was even a state. Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Or at least that's T-shirts that they sold at school.
But it's also true. So, when it comes to the Miami Red Hawks, they were originally named the Miami Redskins.
In honor of the Miami tribe that was in the area back then.
Correct. So the Miami tribe, which was native to the area, which is funny, the term is an English term 100% based on... Never mind. So they're native to southern Ohio and this region of the country. So they named the university after them. Those that are descendants of the Miami tribe get to go to Miami for free. And what's funny is if you spoke to or met with any person who was a descendant of the Miami tribe, 100% of them were pro having the school named after them. So what's funny
because
is
they understood the history behind it. It wasn't a racist name. It was, we literally want to pay homage to the people that were here. You know, like the history of this
can we
land.
acknowledge what's the point of a mascot? Like, what's the point of calling yourself the Cleveland somethings or the Miami somethings if it isn't something to revere behind? Find me the school. Find me the frickin' city or school that said, we are the Miami trash bins, or we are the Miami buttholes. We are the Cleveland Steamers. Literally no one. You quite literally only pick a name based on something you revere. That is the base of the point.
You don't
That's
pick
the base
a name.
of the podcast.
You do not pick a name that you hate to name your school or team after. You pick something you like that's historical and that like has meaning to a large amount of people.
Right. You pick a name because it's revered and it has a lot of positive meaning to people.
History. People get emotion from it.
You get to say Miami Redskins, Washington Redskins, the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Cleveland Indians. Atlanta Braves. You get to call all of them racist and hateful. The second, and I'll even let you use the global arena. I mean, I want you to get as small as a rugby team in Berlin. If you can find me any sports organization that has picked a mascot team name that is hateful or stupid or silly or degrading. Nobody, like I said, is the St. Louis Oscar the Grinch trash dwellers. Like, literally nothing.
Pittsburgh shitters.
Find me one team, and you might have a point. The fact that you can't find one speaks to the fact of it being chosen as a team name in and of itself.
It had
shows
meaning.
that it's revered and has not just meaning, positive meaning. Positive meaning. It's ridiculous, dude.
And do one last point though to go off that. You know how good of a name the Guardians are? There's already another team called the Cleveland Guardians. Have you heard that? Yeah. So obviously
what is it, a roller derby
it's
team
like
or
a
something?
roller derby team or something like that, and they're literally fighting over the naming rights or something. Or like, well, actually, I think. Because I don't think they actually technically copyrighted it or something because they're like
it's in
use.
So long.
So I think they're safe. But how funny is that like we come up with this name and it's already in use by someone else? Who was in charge of researching this stuff? The person who built the logo made a logo we can't use, and then they named our team after a team that already exists in Cleveland. Who's in charge of this process?
Also, I just want to throw out there because I take my podcast so serious. And I knew that I needed to trademark the Rethink Tank. I was only allotted really 2 electives in law school. One of them, I chose sports law, and that was the funnest class I took. Oh, God,
that's a great thing.
And then the one that I took at the end of my law school career, which was my last semester, I took trademark, copyright, and it was just trademark and copyright, but there were patents were minorly involved, but it was trademark, copyright. So in that class, I learned that even if you didn't submit an application to own the copyright yet, if at any point they can show statutorily X amount of years of use, and then they petition for it. So here's how this works.
They have to petition first, so I think, before the other people you wanting to use it, though, right?
Can we also go back to how I think this is all planned and was all... It was foreseen for many years.
So then how come they didn't know about the other Guardians?
What I think happened was they petitioned a long time ago to own this name, right? I guarantee they put in the application to own the name. And then this team existed. It doesn't matter. Okay, let me get to the basis of the law. The law says if you could show you use this, insignia, this icon for so long, or even name, title, whatever, for so long, and you've built a brand out and it's X amount of statutory years, you can petition and retroactively have that trademark up until the point you started use. The other side to that is if the Cleveland Guardians, let's just say the Cleveland Indians franchise, so we don't cross streams here. If you have the the Cleveland Indians organization goes, this is the team name we want. There may be some people that might have a claim to it. There may be some actual authority over us. Did you know? So I put in my petition to own the trademark for the Rethink Tank. They accept it. Then the U.S. Patent Office has a release. Like they do a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a press
release. They put it online, like,
and they put every name that like this is on the docket to put notice, so all U.S. citizens know this is what's up for it. And then after so long, if nobody speaks up, you own it. So imagine this. Let's say you're playing the long game. As I told you, they certainly were. Like a switch, you start making this a pivotal icon for the city. At that exact moment, you petition to own the name. Nobody's checking up on it. You think some kids doing some 40-year-old men doing a rec league roller derby team are checking the U.S. Patent Office?
Nope.
They don't have an attorney. They aren't looking the long game.
They ain't pro. They're not making money off of stuff.
I guarantee they did multiple facets. They've turned the city onto these statues, and at the same time, they made the publication so it's out there. Nobody's paying attention to it because it's not a national MLB
and we haven't announced
franchise.
we were thinking of it or anything. Like they got ahead of it. Probably.
And I guarantee they were well ahead of it.
I can see that, dude. After talking all of this, dude, it was definitely like in the works, man. Like, and then the All-Star game was just kind of what
tips of the hat. No, we're paying you. Thank you for doing what we told you. That the gods. Here's what's funny is we think we have a government. Corporations are our government. They are our government, and
they pay everyone.
And the fact of the matter is, the root of all evil is money. Everybody knows that. And I want my comment. The metaphorical embodiment of my comment to be John Cena. You have a guy who was in a movie where his character acknowledged Taiwan as a country, and China made him formally apologize just so Fast and the Furious.
Fast and the Furious. Oh, the new one.
So Fast and the Furious didn't lose any franchise money in China. Yeah, they were little whores.
Top Gun. They had technically Tom Cruise's fighter jet had like our fighter jacket had a patch for Taiwan on it. They made them change it for the actual theatrical release. Like that movie's not even out yet, but that was like all over the news like before the pandemic, and then the pandemic shut down their filming and everything. But that was one of the things. Like in like a trailer or a photo release, if you look at his jacket, it had like a Taiwan fighter patch on it, and then like China made them change it. Or like the South Park episode where they're trying to make a biopic and China keeps going, no, you can't say that, you can't say this. It's like China just again, owns everything.
The fact of the matter is none of this is based. You get to run around in rainbow colors in June, not because anybody gives a shit about you, but because that's where the money is. Like, corporations forget about you the second midnight strikes on July 1st. That's how your existence is to the corporate world.
Special like Pride stuff. Hulu and Netflix do like Pride sections on their stream, but then as soon as, like you said, as soon as June ends, boom, that Pride section is gone off of Hulu.
So again, the point I was getting at is money is everything. Nobody has any virtues. Nobody has any morals or passions that they're going to fight for or stand up for. The only thing that controls the true powers of America or our society is money. And you had this event. This event only occurred because you did what Daddy said.
And then they got a bunch of money from it. Oh my God, did the Cleveland and the Indians make bank off of that weekend?
Yeah,
not to mention the convention center like was used for All-Star stuff. Then they used Public Square for like All-Star stuff. Then there was everything actually at the stadium all weekend. I mean, the hotels were packed and everyone made money off of that. So, but again, looking back, do I think it was worth all this? I would have to go, no. This wasn't worth it.
Bingo, you nailed it. So, wrapping up thought, when it comes to censorship, silencing people's First Amendment rights of freedom of speech, and this collective of open discourse, it is funny. You know, you have I heard this on Joe Rogan recently where they were talking about how the dangers of silencing. Like, Where does this lead? The first step is going, here's an Jones, or I bleeped out his name, but you know the guy from.
Yeah, I don't think you should even say his name.
And I won't. I definitely bleeped it out, but I've mentioned him before. Initials are AJ, big guy who. I can't even do it. Let me tell you, Joe, they're all lizard people. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. If you got that guy and everybody hates him, and not even rightfully so, but they hate him because the government has convinced you he's a terrible person, or Orange Man bad, and we can all agree he's a terrible person and what he did was incite a riot. Well, this starts at the low-hanging fruit. Indians is racist. Well, clearly it's racist. It insigniates an actual race. Of course we should get rid of AJ because he's speaking falsehoods, promoting disinformation and hate. And of course we need to get rid of the president because he's the worst person to have ever breathed air. Well, they start with the low-hanging fruit. The question is, where does this end? And if you think Browns are not somewhere down that line, and then at some point it's going to be, we're going to get rid of
Cowboys.
Cowboys.
I hope they're just way farther down. Let me put it that way.
Sure.
I can't handle another name change.
But at some point, do we not stop until we're all animals? Like, what does it have to be before it's okay? And then at some point, even that's going to be bad because
next thing is Ohio's going to be its own country. Like, you know what? The rest of this country is racist. We're succeeding. We're seceding. We're now our own country now.
And again, if we can't see that all of this leads to further division.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, to your point, it's like, well, I don't like what they're doing, so I'm just... And then we just get in further echo chambers.
Have the politics in the not, like, last 10, 15 years... Like, obviously, we don't remember too many politics when we were younger. But I don't remember anything like how the last, 6 years have played out. Ever in my life. I don't remember things being like this. And I've always watched the news with my mom growing up, even. Don't remember everything being like this, dude.
Oh, 100%. Well, Doug, I do. I think that's a great point. And the unfortunate part is this leads down a dangerous road. The question is, what is that road? Is it the road we want to be on? Because all I know is what this road is making kind-hearted, loving people out to be hateful and damnful, and that's how a civil war happens. That's how true conflict occurs. When good people are trying to do good and you make them out to be evil, people need to be allowed to grow. People need to be allowed to have their thoughts. And back to Ashley's
people need
point,
to be able to understand. That's a big thing, too. People don't even want to hear.
We don't need to
agree.
You need to understand. That's it. I don't need to agree that where you're coming from is the right position, but at least to have an understanding of why you feel that way is quite literally the heart of
it
this
helps.
problem.
Yes, yeah.
So, do you have any final thoughts saying goodbye to Chief Wahoo? This is our goodbye, dude. On this
sad
podcast,
time, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what. And now I just want to get into some ooey gooey stuff. This podcast quite literally started because in my first year of law school, Chief Wahoo was on the chopping block. So back to my point. This was well before 2019. There was this huge article on why we need to get rid of Chief Wahoo.
What was it, 2018? 2017?
No, it was 2017. So in 2017, the podcast started, and before law school, I spent a year. Front half of the year, I worked at Sprint. It sucked, man. I'd go to Sprint every day, and there'd be these racist assholes that come in and be like, we just took away the Obama phones because somebody else was president, and they go, I want the iPhone 8. It's like, listen, dude, I got an iPhone 6. You're not getting an iPhone 8. Obama phone's gone. You don't get a free iPhone 8. No! And, dude, they would cuss at me. And then you'd have people coming in bitching, Sprint service sucks. It's like, yeah, Sprint service sucks.
Oh, Sprint is
AT&T.
not the best, man.
No crap, this sucks. Sprint was terrible. It was miserable.
I still don't think it's that good.
And every day I'd drive to work and I'd listen to Joe Rogan. And as great as he is, he's also a comedian. He's not the most educated guy. He has very educated people on his podcast oftentimes, but he also has a ton of comedians. Don't be going there for knowledge 100% of the time. And it drove me nuts how many times he'd be like, Jamie, what, and I'd be screaming at the radio. I got it playing in my car, and I'm like, it's this! And it drove me nuts that I knew more than what I was listening to, and it drove me through a wall. And then Joe Rogan spent the entire time going, If you think you should be doing a podcast, you should be doing a podcast. We need more people doing a podcast. This was well before he blew up and became his giant thing.
Oh, he's huge now, absolutely.
But well
huge.
before that, I was of the front wave where I'm listening to this guy and he's like, if you think this is your calling, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. And I'm like, you're right, Joe. I should be doing this. I should flip and be doing this. And I go to law school and I'm like, I need to find the time. I never had the time. I just got to take the initiative. I want to do this, da-da-da. Then this huge movement against Chief Wahoo came. Keep the Indians, but get rid of the chief, at least. But that's where it starts. But that's where it starts.
I know.
First they took Chief Wahoo. Then they take the Indians. Then they take the Browns. Many steps before
What about
then,
the Cavs?
but they are to come. Cavaliers are white people, so f them. You can be racist to them. But I started this podcast because I found something that I truly, truly loved. I truly was excited about. I knew people across all social lines, these immutable characteristics that don't exist, race, religion, everything, sex. Across all those lines, I loved with these people, and that made me passionate to exclaim why we need to never forget and embrace Louis Sakalaxis. Really have affection for the fact that a little white girl wrote this great expose,
and the whole city,
the entire city rallied behind it, and that's what made me start the flippin' think tank, man. I got a neon sign. I built a badass studio. I invested a lot into equipment, and it all started with a passion for baseball, a team, and its city. And this is it, man. Like, it's over. And I don't know where I'll be in 4 years rooting for this baseball team. Because unlike you clowns, I never thought watching baseball was boring. Baseball was my life. It got me through law school. Law school was the hardest period of my life. It was one of the most miserable existences. The amount of times I sat in the shower wishing I could turn myself off. And I mean that literally. I mean that literally. My dad, when I was sitting there talking to a therapist, just like for a meeting, you should have seen my dad's face when I was like, I seriously wanted it to end. I wanted it over. That doesn't make me special. We all have those. It's a period in life. It was a very difficult period. And to take away from me and paint me out to be a terrible person when I say what got me through school was knowing there's a game at 6. Just get through the day. There's a game at 7. And then I could study, have that TV on mute, and just get through the day with a baseball game. And you go, it's too boring. You go, we need to, I don't want to digress too much, but you had, who's the guy, the pitcher for the Astros, who's like one of the greatest pitchers of all time.
Justin
Starts with a V.
Verlander.
Verlander, the year they won the World Series, well, kind of won, cheated, and stole the World Series. Verlander goes, I think they're nerfing the baseballs. I've never thrown I am older than I've ever been, and I'm throwing a baseball harder than I've ever done in my life. He's the one that came out and said, there's something fishy going on. And it's because you children who, we need to put nets along the side of the baseball stadium because you can't keep your head off of your iPhone.
Yeah, you can't even watch the game. You came and paid a ton of money to watch.
We need to nerf the baseballs because there's not enough home runs. All of this stuff takes away from what the true fan found beautiful. And I think what eats away at me is that taking something as pure as that and making it out and forcing the block through the circle hole, that we need it to be that you're hateful. That, I think, is the most gut-wrenching part of all this. Why I'll never support the Guardians is because it's taking a knee and platforming something that is so much more dangerous than a name could ever be. And that's the heart of my point always. Do you have any final thoughts saying goodbye to the Chief?
I'm going to miss him. He was a good friend growing up, like you said. I used to love watching the game with my dad, and I always remember watching the Indians and going to Jacobs Field and then Progressive Field and, whatever. I got over the name change of the stadium. I don't think I'll get over this name change of the team anytime soon.
You know what's funny is I went to an Indians game with Foster, a buddy of ours who's been on the podcast before, and we went to an Indians game, and his shirt was, "It'll always be the Jake."
Love that. I love those shirts.
I think I wore this shirt, the Chief Wahoo shirt. Dude, the amount of people who stopped Foster to go, "Dude, I love that shirt. That's an awesome shirt. I love your shirt."
People love those shirts. Dude, I always love, anytime I see
So
those,
again,
I go, I love it.
So the heart of that point is it doesn't matter what you change the name to. The Guardian, that stadium will always be the Here's what's funny is my dad thought it became a meme. And again, that's why I think it's all professionally pushed by bots and everything else. Ironically, the same day the Tom Hanks psyop came out, I had so many people from work and everything else send me memes about, ha ha ha, we're calling the corner of Carnegie the G spot because we're the Guardians. And my dad said, I get this all day.
I actually think that's hilarious, personally.
Why? Because you think G spot is funny. It's just.
Well, I think it's also easier to say than Guardians Field or something. Like Rocket
it would never
Mortgage.
be Guardians
But
Field.
I'm
It's
just
still
saying,
going to be owned by an insurance company.
Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse is such a mouthful.
Wait, no, it's Progressive Field.
No, but I'm saying
owned. But I'm just saying that's the basketball. We're still talking about. Guess what?
They might
Next
change
year,
the name.
It's still going to be Progressive Field. It's still going to be owned by Progressive because an insurance company owns the hell out of it because that's money owns it all. Jacobs Field gone, Progressive Field in because insurance and corporations own us. So my whole point is, even that. It doesn't matter. You could come up with a funny name. I'll laugh about it in passing. We call it the G spot. But the heart of the point, tradition, love, and the community is always the Jake.
Always the Jake.
So we're always wrapping up on the same point. It doesn't matter what you change it to. It's never Progressive Field. It's always the Jake. It's never the Guardians. It's always the Indians. You know that because you preserve 3/4 of the same name.
The same fonts, the same colors, everything. Obviously, they didn't really want to get rid of it fully.
Exactly. So, Doug, thanks for coming on. And so, yeah, again, I just want to finish this. I talked about it with you. I talked about it on multiple podcasts. This is the closing of an era. Chief Wahoo's
Absolutely
gone.
End of an era.
The Indians are done. The real question is, do we allow ourselves to start a new one? Because I will always want baseball, but I just know this will always hurt. Because here's the deal. The person that's like, I'm satisfied the name's changed, will never be alleviated by the satisfaction of watching baseball, which it did for me.
They appeased are not the ones spending money on season tickets like you or I.
And just like the month of June, what is funny and what's true is views and dollars is the attitude. That's how you vote today, folks, because we know how these elections are really going. So the fact of the matter is the way you truly vote is with your view and is with your dollar. And so if you support this, you support Big Brother telling you what you can and can't do, think, and say. So as much as it could be the Cleveland Rethink Tanks, no matter what, I still can't allow myself to support and get excited about it because of the message and foundation of the point.
I will never buy any gear. I'm going to leave it at that.
Bingo.
I got plenty of this stuff.
Doug, thank you for always coming on here. Thank you for always talking about this point. It's fun. It's sad that it's ending for us, but me and you saw it through. It's end of an era. Guys, in wrapping, thank you so much for following us through this fun conversation. I promise you I won't beat you with Chief Wahoo too much moving forward. I think this will be a final thought for us.
We got a lot out there today.
We did. I think we got it all out. In light of that, guys, if you enjoyed our conversation, if you had a good time with us today, if I made you laugh or made you think, please, the best thing you could do to support this podcast, to keep this going, because we've got algorithms silencing people thinking for themselves and trying to keep away other alternative medias besides CNN and Fox News. If you support this new platform, the best and only thing you could do is share this podcast. Check out Rethink Tank clips on YouTube. I'm going to be making clips of this episode and clips in the past, so you don't have to share all hour and 42 minutes. You could share just a 4-minute clip. Please check out the other channel. But like I said, the best thing you could do is share. But again, We are fighting algorithms, so hit the like button. That's a huge, huge help. And even more so, to help us with the algorithm, a big, big piece is to drop a comment. So, Doug, what type of question should we leave them? If you had the opportunity to choose a Cleveland baseball team name, and it wasn't the Cleveland Guardians, what would it be?
I like that.
And I don't want you to like someone else's. If you see the Cleveland Tribe and you wanted it to be the Cleveland Tribe, also comment the Cleveland Tribe. We need as many comments, so get those comments up, get those likes up, and shares. Doug, brother, thank you as always for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, man. This was fun talk. I love talking Tribe. Could
That's
do it
it.
for another 2 hours.
Dude, we could go on forever. Check us out at our website, www.rethinktankpodcast.com. You can find all of our content there, from the Twitter to the Instagram, but most importantly, it's a concentration of all our videos. So all the Rethink Tank videos can be found on our website. And then also, while you're there at the website, you can join the Neuro Gym. You could join. I had such a good flow. While you're there, you can join the Neuro Gym, which is a new social media alternative where there's no silencing, there's no curbing of ideas. We've got giveaways and competitions going on there. It's kind of just like a giant Reddit forum, and you don't have to worry about your ideas and thoughts being canceled or silenced. So go join the new social media alternative at the Neuro Gym on the Rethink Tank website. Other than that, Doug, we'll catch you again. Episode 59 for my guy. 57 was mine. 59 was Doug's. Guys, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll see you next time. Peace. You're good. It's that podcast swamp ass.